And this next conversation is a pretty good example of that, as we've spoken so much about the DIB, the Defense Industrial Base, and the need for expanding capacity to try to meet the needs of the Pentagon, knowing that we have spent an enormous amount of money and hardware in obviously our war with Iran, but also in trying to support efforts in Ukraine. Kaylee, it's been millions, billions of dollars worth of missiles, not just offensive missiles, but interceptors that all need to be replaced. The Pentagon is now undertaking its largest mass production munitions commitment in decades. And this obviously could mean huge business for companies like Lockheed Martin and its competitors, who are facing an enormous amount of demand.
Well, that's certainly the case. Demand that has perhaps been heightened given the depletion of munitions we've seen in this conflict in the Middle East. According to Central Command, U.S. Admiral Bradley Cooper, as of May 14th, the U.S. had expended 13,629 munitions. Stockpiles that will need to be backfilled if they want to be able to be deployed in future conflicts. But of course, Joe, there is a lead and a lag time to this. And it is all the conversation we want to get into now as we turn to Lockheed Martin's president for missiles and fire control, Tim Cahill, who is joining us now here on Bloomberg TV and radio. Tim, welcome to Balance of Power. We appreciate you joining us. You, of course, last week just held a groundbreaking for an expansion of facilities in Troy, Alabama, Building 47, where you focus on THAAD specifically, a number of which we know have been deployed in the Middle East in just the last few months. And of course, conflict elsewhere as well. We only have a couple hundred left of these, according to reports. So how quickly can your new facility ramp up and get these back into the hands of the U.S. military?
Yeah, well, first, good afternoon, Kaylee and Joe. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you. Well, so directly, we are putting a significant urgency, dollars investment into building rapidly. And speaking of the THAAD interceptor, of course, as you used as an illustration, the answer is we've already started to increase THAAD capacity out of the existing floor plan that we have at Troy, Alabama, and we're going to continue to do that. This particular expansion will double the size of the facility and will quadruple the number of THAAD interceptors that we're able to produce. And if you're wondering about that math, you can see behind me some of the robotics and some of the high technology additive manufacturing systems that we're going to bring into play in Troy to do exactly that.
So when we think about, Tim, and it's great to have you with us here, I'd love to know everything that's behind you in that shot. When we think about the incredible demand that's coming from the Pentagon right now, is it up to Lockheed basically to expand as quickly as you can to meet that demand? And is the Pentagon helping you do so?
Well, so it isn't just up to Lockheed, which I'll get into, and absolutely the Pentagon is helping. In fact, the Pentagon is driving this, and through their leadership and innovation, and in our partnership with both Lockheed Martin and all of our major suppliers and their entire supply chain, we're all working rapidly to move at a pace that's never been moved before. Everything from contracting space to investment. We're already about $1 billion into what will be a $9 billion investment into this ramp, to requirements and certifications changes that are going to enable us to move faster. So you can imagine every single element of this throughout thousands of subcontractors and through Lockheed Martin as well, and the Department of War, which is, again, clearly our partner in this. We're all hands on deck to make sure that this happens.
Well, as you consider that ramp up, even with the assistance of the Pentagon, are there still constraints to the speed at which you can ramp up capacity, whether in the supply chain or elsewhere? What are the headwinds facing this effort, Tim?
Okay, that's a great question. And you can imagine if you have thousands of suppliers and tens of thousands of parts, and you need every single one of them, anything can become a bottleneck. But to first order, absolutely, we are addressing everything from material, things like titanium, which is critical to the build of solid rocket motors, all the way through advanced circuit boards. These are actually pretty intelligent machines that we are building. They're not just simple ballistic rockets. And so all those components have to come together. And fundamentally, what we are doing is, in partnership with the Department of War and all of our suppliers, is that we are methodically going through every single potential choke point, every single, if you will, iron bar, everywhere where there is a potential for something that could hold us up, and we are trying to crush each of those things one by one. And whether it's getting materials faster, getting buildings built faster, whether it's looking for alternative places that we can get material that we haven't had before, or whether it's in contractual space, requirement space. There's a lot of places that we can work with the Department of War and our suppliers to find things to do more efficiently. And particularly now, I think it's all about the sense of urgency. How can we do this faster? And when you look through that lens, you may come to a different set of answers than you did before.
Interesting. You mentioned circuitry. Tim, is Lockheed in the business now of buying as many memory chips as it can get its hands on? Are you buying CPUs as well, knowing that there's so much demand from them coming from AI and so many other industries outside of defense?
Yeah, Joe, we do that, in fact, and particularly in places where we think that there might be a shortage in the future or whether something might go obsolete, we'll go do bulk buys. But effectively what we do is we look at all of the components, again, in the missile system itself, and pick what things that we might need to buy ahead, what things we might need to add additional emphasis on or incentives on. Whatever the case may be, each one of those components gets evaluated and we take whatever the appropriate action is. And in some cases, it isn't, in fact, buying parts ahead.
Well, when we consider the parts you are buying, Tim, and what they go into, we've had an ongoing conversation, and frankly, we've had it for years now, as after Russia invaded Ukraine and drone warfare came to the forefront. But obviously, we're seeing that now in the Middle East as well, as we see these cheap Iranian Shahed drones being shot down by missiles that are much, much more expensive, in the millions of dollars. How is Lockheed thinking about addressing that asymmetry we're seeing on display in this current conflict? How do you do these cheaper and more efficiently for if there are enemies of the United States who can attack cheaper and more efficiently?
Okay, that's a great question. So we are looking at systems, everything from the very inexpensive, quick deploy, all the way through the highly capable systems such as THAAD and the PAC-3 MSE that we deploy, which are going to be key still in the future because there's still those high-end, highly capable missile systems that are going to be deployed against our troops and potential population centers. But to the point of the less expensive systems, even as we speak, we have some counter-UAS drones, counter-UAS systems, for example, that we have deployed out in the desert, where we're using everything from small missiles all the way through lasers, through microwave emitters, all tied into something we call the Sanctum counter-UAS system. It's actually been out in the desert for the last few weeks, hitting targets and showing how it can rapidly knock down those Shahed-class drones with something that is more appropriate for it. And we believe that's more appropriate as well. We don't advocate that you use something like a THAAD or an MSE against these very cheap and quickly deployable threats that come out in vast numbers. We absolutely need some of these cheaper systems. We're out deploying them like a lot of people are. It's all about applying innovation in AI, applying innovation in additive manufacturing, bringing new technologies to bear, oftentimes in partnership with some of these new entrants.
The innovation that we've seen coming out of Ukraine is quite remarkable, to the point where I understand a number of defense contractors, and maybe that includes Lockheed as well, have traveled there to work with the Ukrainians, who are basically building equipment in garages and in basements to help knock down Russian drones, to help swarm and deal with this new technology. Are you impressed by some of the innovations that we're seeing coming out of smaller countries with fewer resources? And can you adopt them at Lockheed?
Well, we're absolutely impressed. These folks have done an incredible job in their country, and we can absolutely adopt that. And that's really what's critical. It's other countries that have been under stress that have had to develop these systems quickly and adapt quickly as the adversaries are adapting. It's the small new entrants that are coming in that are bringing in new technologies and new capabilities into the defense marketplace. It's a worldwide global endeavor, if you will. And so I think all the free nations are collaborating together for bringing the best technology as fast as we can bring it and learning from whoever we can learn from. We don't have a problem engaging with folks at any scale, any place on the world, and working with them to adapt what they have learned as well. That's how we all get better.
Yeah, you're talking pretty favorably about the new entrants here, Tim. As Bloomberg's reported that the Pentagon is looking at potentially different startups in the missile space, hypersonics specifically. Do you not see those as companies that are nipping at Lockheed's heels?
Well, of course. But, competition is good. And the fact that, first of all, we can bring in some of those new entrants and their technologies. And we've been doing this for many, many years. It's just that there was a small number of them. There wasn't tens or hundreds or thousands of them. But we talk to them all the time. We have new technologies that you'll be seeing announced over coming months that we are actually incorporating into systems right now that come from new entrants. We discuss potential partnership opportunities with them all of the time. They are pushing us as well, and they are making us go faster as well. So they're making us better. We're making each other better. And so we're not afraid of competition. We've been doing this for well over 100 years in Lockheed Martin, delivering exactly what the customers asked us to deliver. Now, the customer is asking for something a little bit differently. They're asking us for speed and urgency and getting things to the field faster. And we're going to respond to that. And we will partner with any of folks out there who have capability and desire and have that same sense of urgency and that same sense of mission. That's clearly still the most important, is providing deterrence, protecting our troops, protecting population center, protecting our allies.
Well, that's a great answer. Tim, I only have 30 seconds. I'm just deeply curious. Is the Pentagon the exclusive buyer of your goods, or those other governments deemed appropriate by the Pentagon? Like, could I buy a THAAD system for my backyard?
No, I don't think you could buy a THAAD for your backyard, but the U.S. government would have to decide that, so I won't speak for them. But it's absolutely a global market. THAADs we sell to a number of countries. We sell them through the United States government with their approval. PAC-3 MSE is to dozens of countries, and in fact, across the board, we have operations in about 60 different countries across the world. So this is a global operation. Supplying our allies as well as the United States is critically important to us.